Hey guys, I'm Mike Martinez, and I went from being dead broke in the gang streets of East LA on drugs to being a multi-millionaire running several multi-million-dollar successful businesses, and I'm one of the passionate few. The interview today with Omar was absolute fire. I hope you guys take away some serious inspiration. I share my story with how I was dead broke, how I was addicted to drugs, how I went through gang violence and a bunch of bad circumstances to becoming massively successful. I travel the world. I have over 150 employees on payroll, and we make millions of dollars here. And this interview will show you how I did it.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Passionate Few podcast. Today we sit down with none other than serial entrepreneur and multimillionaire Mike Martinez to hear his incredible story about how he literally grew up in LA from a rough situation and overcame tons of obstacles, hurdles, financial challenges, and how he was able to turn his life around literally from the streets to now inspiring millions of people around the world with his content. So with no further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this epic interview with my good friend, Mike Martinez. Thanks so much for being on the show, boss.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having us here in your office. Now, before we get started, I just want to give a quick and huge shout out to our sponsor, Mindcore Technologies. You see, the truth is, if you're a business owner going into 2023 and you're concerned with either having a cybersecurity breach, the frustration with finding IT solutions to your challenges, or you're just spending too much money on it, well, you're in luck because Mindcore Technologies can help you with exactly that. Want to find out more? Simply book a call in the description down below for your free cybersecurity assessment and IT audit. Now, before we get into the story, can you give the audience a little bit of like a high-level context as to what you do in business today, and then we'll kind of get into your background. But for people who know nothing, what do you do today, present day?
Of course. So my main business, which is my baby, is a multi-million-dollar debt collection organization. I have over 100 employees. I'm about 140 right now, in-house 140 virtual, and we're currently doing between 1.2 to 1.5 million every single month. I also do real estate, so we do wholesaling and flipping. Mm-hmm. I'm doing a couple $100,000 a month in that business, and then I own a data company, which is skip tracing. That's finding phone numbers for motivated sellers for real estate investors.
Before you started all these businesses, like you didn't know that you were going to be this serial entrepreneur making millions of dollars, right? Like you grew up kind of from humble beginnings, right, in LA. Can you give a little context there?
I was born and raised in East LA, just like the movie, right? We were pretty poor. My dad hung out with, a bunch of gang members. He was an immigrant from Mexico, and he came at 7 years old, so he was a bit Americanized, in his teens. And he hung out with a bunch of gang members. I don't want to disclose the name of the gang, but my brother kind of followed in those footsteps when my dad died. Coming up, I was still baby pretty much, very, very young kid.
How old were you when he passed?
I was 7 years old when my dad passed. So I seen my brother kind of growing up in the gang scene as well. And we were just poor and we didn't have a choice. I didn't know that I was going to be massively successful. As I started getting older, becoming a teenager, I kind of had a feeling like, all right, I'm destined for something. I'd love to be rich. I would love to have money and not worry about it. I like nice things, right? Even as a kid, I knew that. I just didn't know how, and I didn't know how far it was going to go.
So when your first job, like as a kid, were you like one of those kids that like early on was doing side hustles? Were you like, selling candies and chocolates, or was your first job in your later teens, was younger? Like what was your first job? What was your first foray into like making money?
13 years old. My brother was a car wash manager at Longo Lexus after he came out of the Marines. So I used to work on the weekends washing Lexus, like Longo Lexus and Amani, washing cars on the weekends. That was a hustle. That was brutal. I didn't like it. I would get home exhausted, my eyes bloodshot red. It was just insane. And then my next job was, 13, 14 years old, same thing, selling chocolates. I was about 13 years old. Selling chocolates at gas stations, nice neighborhoods. I'd have this big Tupperware just full of chocolates and teas and all kinds of stuff, selling for like, $7, $8. I'd make like $2, $3 commission on it. So sales job at 13, 14 years old. 14 years old, I got a job doing telemarketing. How I landed the job was kind of a miracle. In the Penny Saver, I applied for the job. And at first I was denied. They said, we can't hire you. You're a young Mexican kid, Mexican accent. You sound horrible on the phones. Like, we can't hire you. But then I tried to convince them the next day. The director had a change of heart. He says, I'm going to hire you on one condition. You're going to read books. And whenever you don't understand a word, he used to sell encyclopedias. He was a big Armenian dude, encyclopedia salesman. He says, as long as you don't recognize what a word means or you don't understand what the word is, put on an index card and then look up the word and you're going to tell me what it means the next day. So that went on for several months and I became good at telemarketing. And then from there, they noticed it was a home improvement company. We would sell roofing, texture coating, windows. And when he noticed that I was good, the owner noticed me and he says, I'm having projects done in my neighborhood in Hacienda Heights, roofs and stuff. So whenever we get a job, I want you to go around and ask the neighbors if they want to set an appointment for an estimate. I got really good at that. Those are called canvassers, like door-to-door knockers. I'm like 14 years old at that time, 15 years old. I'm there for like a year or two. I started doing very well and I started managing door-to-door knockers. Like the guys are 30, 40, 50 years old and they're working for me. I'm telling them where to go. You're going to go down the street, cross over, come back. They're like, we're not going to take orders from a 15-year-old. So nobody liked me because I took my job serious,
and you're compounding these skills every time you level up, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I started getting better and better. I started like reading. I was always pretty good in school. I wasn't like a nerd or I didn't take it that serious, but I was naturally good at learning. So when I had to read books to, try to learn new words, to sharpen my vocabulary and things like that, it worked out because it walks hand in hand with sales. That's the way I seen it when I was a kid.
Yeah. And were you like always one of those kids that was like hungry to have success because you were so young, pops wasn't around, maybe mom, and your brother, it was like tough to make ends meet. You're seeing a lot of like gang activity. Like take me back. Like was the motivation hot or was that like a thing in your mind at that time? Not really.
Mom, I had a stepdad and mom was always strong. Like she wouldn't let my stepdad tell me anything. She was mom and dad for me. Right. She didn't make a crazy amount of money. So it was a struggle, but it wasn't as bad as like I had to work to pay the bills to help her. It wasn't that bad. But what did happen is I had a daughter at 15 years old, so I had to provide for her. Mom did make it perfectly clear. Like, I'm not going to support your kid. Like, you were man enough to have a kid. You're going to take care of your kid. So I had to work. And yeah, I had a car. Like I had a lifestyle that I wanted. So I had to work. Like I just had to work. And throughout all this, I'm living in the ghetto. We are still fairly poor. So it's not to where our house was falling apart or we didn't have food on the table. We were always surviving, but I had to work to support my daughter. And if I wanted shit, I had to work for it.
Yeah. And so what are some of the things you saw growing up in LA like that? It must have been rough in the streets, right?
Yeah. So we ended up moving from East LA to Baldwin Park, which is, outside of LA. It's more like semi-suburb. It's not as bad as LA. But it can still be rough. And then I got kicked out of school for fighting. I had to go to school in Almani. Almani's rougher. So that's kind of when I started, as a teen, I started connecting with the gangsters there, with the gang members and smoking weed and just being a knucklehead and getting into that scene. And it really got a hold of me. That really got a hold of me because I'm 16 years old. I don't even remember how many days I went to school a week. It was that rare. And it was bad. Like I was getting caught up in the wrong things, smoking weed every day. And I had a car. I had a little bit of money with my little jobs and stuff. So I was able to have money to be on the streets messing around. So
yeah. And you probably weren't engaging in the best habits then. Did you ever get into like drugs too much or anything like that?
I did. It started off as just smoking weed here and there. And then I started hanging out with the gangsters who would sell crystal meth. So I started messing around with it, selling it as well. It was giving me extra money, partying, drinking. Dude, at 16 years old, I was in nightclubs, like drinking, doing crystal meth, smoking weed. Like it was all bad.
Living it up. Yeah.
I'd make a couple $100, on my check. I'm 16 years old making, $500 a week, I just blow it. I'll just blow it on a weekend. So now I got to make more money. I'm selling a little bit of crystal meth. I'm buying some. I'm doing some.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Listen, we'll get right back to the video in a sec, but I just want to let you know that if you're watching this video and you're enjoying it, good, because that's exactly why we make these videos. And also, if you're a 7 to 8 figure entrepreneur and you're looking to grow your business with videos just like this, but maybe don't know how, or you've tried stuff and you're stuck, but you don't want to leave money on the table and you know you want content to be a part of your strategy, you just don't know how to grow that brand, grow your revenue, create videos, and scale your revenue with it, well, you're in luck, because we actually specialize in helping 7, 8, and 9 figure entrepreneurs do exactly that. So if you'd like to learn from those strategies and get a free personalized one-on-one session 100% free, you can simply book a call at the link in the description down below to learn more and hop on a call with our team to see how we might be able to help you. So anyways, just want to hop on here, let you guys know that, and thank you guys. But with no further ado, let's get right back to the show. Enjoy. And was there ever a point where you almost slipped into that life versus like the momentum with your career? Was there any turning points, rock bottom moments with any of that stuff?
Oh yeah. So when I was about 17, I didn't think I was going to graduate high school because I was just so behind. Mom said, if you don't graduate high school, forget you have a mom. I'm like, damn, like that, huh?
Yeah.
So
ultimatum.
I tried to get my shit together quick, and I pulled off a miracle, and I ended up graduating. And by a miracle, like I was the guy that had, the medallion for best improved. Like that was me.
Yeah.
That was me at my graduation. I literally got a medallion that said like best improved senior or something crazy of that effect.
Yeah.
But that's, my mom basically said like, you're either gonna graduate or forget you have a mom. So I pulled with every ounce of energy. I ended up graduating by a miracle. But then that's when it got crazier, because as soon as I graduated, I was lost. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I started smoking more weed, messing around with more meth, hanging around with, more dangerous gangsters. And I started selling dope. My life got crazy at that point. And before I knew it, in a couple of years, from like 18, 19 to 20, 21, I was just lost in meth. I went from selling it to like literally abusing it to its fullest potential. I was losing my mind. I was so skinny. All you can see is my eyes, my black, the black shadow under my eyes and my nose. That's all you could see. It was that bad. So eventually my brother found out how bad it was. He was in the Marines. He was, going back and forth from the wars. And he also had a good job at Longo Lexus. He went from car wash manager to service manager. So he ended up finding out everything that was going on, and he pulled me into rehab at 21.
And during this time, you're still managing jobs, like doing well in your sales positions as you're moving up in your career. Like, were you able to like, smoke, drink, do all this stuff, but also stay productive, or did it affect your
No, it
performance?
affected me. It got to the point where I couldn't work anymore because I was so lost in meth.
Wow.
Like I hit rock bottom. I was losing my mind. I couldn't carry a conversation with somebody. You'd be talking about one thing, and I'd respond with something else, where the person I was talking to would say like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, you're out of your mind. What world are you in?
Yeah.
It was that bad.
Wow. So your brother literally like pulling you out of it. That was the game changer.
Man, I would sleep for days because I would not sleep for days. So to make up for, I'd go 3 or 4 days without sleeping. I'd be crashed out for 2 days. And mind you, when you're on meth, you're not sleeping and you're not eating. So I was like as skinny as a toothpick without sleeping. So when I would crash, And when I would wake up, mom would be there, and I wouldn't listen to her. And there was a point where my brother wouldn't believe my mom. My mom would say, you got to come get your brother. He's out of his mind. He's so lost in drugs. It's not even funny. Wow. And my brother wouldn't believe her. He'd say, that can't be Mike. That can't be Mike. Finally, he came one day and he's seen how I was. He's like, dude, you're done. You're coming with me. And he was my older brother, like my father figure.
That day he took you, or like the next day?
No, that day when he's seen the way I was, he's like, dude, you're done. You're coming with me.
Right now. Yeah.
Right now.
Wow.
So, and I was scared of him because he was a big bad Marine, like my father figure.
Yeah.
So I listened to him.
Yeah.
But it was still rough. It was like demons and devils coming out of me when I was sobering up. Like it was like you see in the movies, that's real.
Looking back, what advice do you have for people who might be dealing with their own addictions and trying to get out of it?
Get help. Get help. You might not be strong enough to do it on your own. Seek help. hang on to every bit of help that you can get, because you might be in a position where you cannot get out of it on your own.
Yeah, and just admit that to yourself, right?
Yes.
Accept it. Yeah. Okay, so then take me back. So you go to rehab, you get out of it, and then from there you get your life on straight. You go sober, cold turkey. I mean, what happens next? How does that transition?
Yeah, it wasn't cold turkey. It was a few days. It was very challenging. I mean, in the middle of the night, I'd get up, and on the second floor of my brother's house, in one of my niece's bedrooms, I would try to jump out the window, like to escape and go back to doing drugs.
Wow.
My brother, I'd find my brother laying down there and waking up, like, dude, you're not going nowhere. I started, playing basketball in the mornings.
So he was like your protector.
He brought me back to life.
I love that.
And he works for me now. He's like my top sales acquisitions manager in my real estate company. He's a rock star. He served many, many years in the Marines. Have a lot of respect for him. Tomorrow's Veterans Day. I want to honor him. Nice. And he was a lieutenant in the federal prisons for like 7-8 years, but he wasn't going anywhere. No money in his retirement, 30 grand in his retirement account, 46 years old. He's like, dude, what do I do? Come work for me, bro. I told him, I'll make you rich in a couple of years. Come work for me. So that's where we're at. But it was tough, man. Like, sobering up was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. Mm-hmm. Once you go through something like that, it's like, what can you not do? Mm-hmm. If you can get off of meth from abusing it for years, anything's possible.
And how long were you in rehab for?
So my brother sobered me up at his house for 2 weeks, and then I was in rehab for about 2-3 weeks. So all in all, a little bit over a month sobering up.
And then you came out of it and went into a vengeance with your career, or like what was your?
I checked myself out of rehab. It was a Christian rehab. Mm-hmm. It's called Teen Challenge for those people that know. And on my 3rd week there, I mean, they'd wake us up at 5 a.m. to pray. Breakfast was like at 6:30 in the morning. After about 3 weeks there, I was already pretty sober, pretty back to reality. I had like this burning ambition. I'm like, what is this? My daughter is, how old is she at the time? Maybe like 7 years old. So I'm thinking like, what am I doing? I got to provide for my daughter. I had just had my son, and I'm like, dude, I got to make money. I just can't be in a rehab being a loser. Like, I got to go make money. So I got out. I had experience in sales, got a job at a sales furniture store as a salesman, but business was slow. I was there for a few weeks and not too many sales. So the owner comes up to me and says, business is kind of slow. Rogers Acceptance Corporation in La Puente, that was a furniture store. He says, do you want to go to our credit department? I said, sure, I'll go to your credit department. He says, we need help there. They had a bunch of undocumented people there, just like approving credit applications. It was taking them hours to approve a few applications. I blew through like 20 applications a day. So they said, how are you moving so fast approving all these applications? We had to call references, verify employment, things like that. I said, dude, I'm educated. Like, I went to high school. I'm smart. I have a mouthpiece. Like, this job's too easy for me. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm making like $9 an hour or something like that. They said, okay, we have an opening in collections. Do you want to try that position? Mm-hmm. They said it pays more. And with your sales skills, you might be a rock star at it. I said, let's try it. They bumped me up $2 an hour. My first month, I was number 1.
Wow.
In that department.
Wow.
So that's how I got into collections.
And how old were you at that time?
Man, I was 22.
Wow. So you found like finally had hit a momentum of like, all right, something to channel your effort, your energy, that craving for that high into.
Yeah.
And so you do that for a couple of years, or what happens next?
I was only there for a few months because they were promising me a manager position that they never delivered on. I got frustrated. I got upset, and I started looking for another job. I found an agency, collection agency, third party, that, they hired me on. It took a lot of convincing because they wanted people with more experience there. It was a more sophisticated collection operation, so they wanted somebody with more experience. But I went in there, spoke to all their managers, and I just convinced them.
And what is collections for people who are watching or listening to this that might not know what that even is?
Okay, so debt collections is when there's debt owed. Mm-hmm. They're the bill collectors that are calling you to bring your past due account current. So if you have a credit card and you file 3 months, 6 months, even a year behind, you're in collections. Mm-hmm. Their job as a bill collector is to collect the money that you're behind, or to get the balance in full. Mm-hmm. That's what debt collection
makes sense. Gotcha. Okay. And I know you do a lot of videos like this in your current branding and stuff, and I love that you share so many tips and tricks. And if people want to follow Mike, they can check that out as well. But take me back then. So you're doing this for a couple months. You're a rock star at it, and then you just get bit by the bug, the hunger, the ambition, commissions start rolling in, or what starts happening for you financially right there?
Yeah, surprisingly, I was really good at it. So I just ran with it. I didn't look back. I was making $3,000 to $4,000 a month in salary, and then another 3,000 or 4,000, a couple grand a month at least in commissions. So for somebody that just came off meth, for somebody that's really coming back to reality, I felt like I just found heaven on earth, right? I'm making 5-6 grand a month easy, doing collections. I'm really enjoying the job. You know, I'm sobered up. I start working out. I start eating better. And I felt really good. I felt really good.
And do you remember the first month that blew your mind financially? Was there any kind of like your first time making X amount of money where you're like, holy shit?
I had made money before. I mean, I sold dope and I had a job and I had made money before. But this was different because I was sober. So my mind was not clouded. Like my goals were different. My body started feeling good. I started working out. It was a different feeling. So I started working, taking it more serious. And this went on for a couple of years. I mean, I was just enjoying life. I was enjoying life. And then in 2007, I wasn't a manager in collections yet, but they had me as like a trainer or a lead supervisor. So I started training people, and then my wife ended up getting a job there. She was not my wife. I didn't know her at the time, but it was my job to train her. So we started train her. I did. So we started getting serious, you know, and
right away you guys hit it off.
We hit it off. It took about a month before we like started dating and like started taking things serious. But then after that, she ended up leaving the company. And it wasn't good for us to be working together right there all the time. You know, working for a company, it's just not healthy to have your partner working with you.
Why do you think that is?
There's a lot of drama. It's just not healthy. I don't think it is. But she ended up leaving and she got pregnant. You know, I had my son and I was just supporting us. We ended up getting an apartment together and I decided I need to make more money. So I did a jump. I made a move, and I got a job at a law firm, at a collection law firm. It's a law firm attorney, and their job is just to collect debt for some of the biggest debt buyers and some of the biggest credit card companies in the country.
How did you hear about the job opportunity?
I think it might have been an ad that I was just looking for another job, looking for more money. I was making like $15 an hour salary. But then I was also making good money in bonuses and commissions.
Right.
But I wanted to take a next step to try to make 10 grand a month. I was making about 6,000 a month. I wanted to make 10 grand a month. So, and I did make more money. I took a leap of faith and I learned a lot at that collection law firm. I'm so glad I did it. I learned from one of the best, you know, general managers and one of the best closers in the business, who later on, up until about a year ago, was working for me running my company as my general manager. I worked for him. He taught me a lot. And I was there for about a year. And eventually, you know, this was 2008. I don't know if you remember. Horrible economy.
Right.
Bad recession. I took a pay cut, and that company, you know, they started restricting my bonuses and my commission. So I had to leave. I went back to the other company I was at. I was literally there for a few months. And then I discovered something that changed my life. Commission only debt collections. They said, if you're good, you have talent, you can collect, we're going to pay you 33% commission only. That's how I started making 10 grand a month. I took a leap of faith again. I jumped. You have to take these scary steps because it's scary. You have a $5,000 salary or $4,000 salary, whatever it is, and you're going to go work a job that's commission only. That's insane, isn't it? You have to do that though if you want to elevate. So I did it, and I started making 10 grand a month. Started working for these other companies that is commission only, and I met a guy there who in 2012 became my business partner. Him and his dad had a little bit of money saved. They wanted me to go work for them running their company. They were going to launch a collection agency. They wanted me to run it. I said, no, I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I already had my own team. I was already making good money. I said, if we're gonna do that, we're gonna be partners.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna be business partners.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did. In 2012, I launched my first company. I was doing everything. I was running the whole business for us. I was, the manager. I was the administrator. I was everything for the company.
Mm-hmm.
So we did well for a couple of years, but then it got exhausting where I was doing all the work and he was just sitting back, collecting his money. I said, this is not going to work for me anymore. So I started my own company.
Mm-hmm.
That was in 2014.
And how old were you then?
28.
Wow.
28 years old.
And along this way, as you're like leveling up, are you starting to see like, because I noticed there's a pattern of you leaning into the skill. Was it a conscious choice of you saying like, okay, I'm going to level up the skill, start my own company and grow it? Or did you just kind of lean on what worked and then like as stuff came up, you figured it out? Like, was there a master plan?
I was getting really good at collections and I was obviously sharpening the tools, but a lot of this kind of happened organically.
Yeah.
Like I didn't plan to just go open my own company. I was kind of pushed into it by my partner, who eventually that became the best thing that I could have done because I stopped working for companies and I gambled on myself. I said, yeah, I could do this. I was running the company for us. I was running the company for my business partner and for myself. So that was the best thing I could have done. And yeah, I started learning how to operate the business. And eventually I said, I don't need a partner. I should just do this on my own. So I did. I told my partner, we're going to keep our business open. We're going to keep everything running, but I'm going to branch off and also start my own company. I'll still be running this business, but I'm also going to start another company of my own. He didn't like that. So he says, if you do that, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have my own branch as well then. I said, that's fine. He started focusing on his company. I started focusing on mine. Eventually, company we had together started suffering. So we ended up splitting up. I took about 80-90% of the staff because we gave them the choice. We said, we're splitting up. You guys choose where you want to go. I started noticing I was a pretty good leader at that point because everybody even said, why are we going to follow him if you're the one that runs everything? You're the one that knows what he's doing. We're going to come with you. And in 2012, I didn't look back. In 2016, I reached out to my old general manager. He was running another office at that time. He was not interested in joining me. He was pretty loyal to his previous employer. And once he started noticing that company was going down several months later, he contacted me and said, it's time for me to come work with you. So he came to work for me and it was a good run. 2016, 17, all the way until the beginning of this year when he left. I was paying him very, very well. And I asked him to, help out and pay his managers and contribute because he was getting paid like an executive. He refused and he went to start his own company, which is fine. We respect that. We're in America, capitalism. I respect it. But yeah, that's how I got to where I'm at.
And today, your guys' business, as you've grown it, I mean, in terms of structure, you have revenues in over $1.5 million a month, over 100 people that work for you. How do you as CEO manage all that? How do you run all that? I know you got your wife to help you, but what advice do you have for people that are overwhelmed with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people, let alone 100 and building teams and systems? What have you learned about that? What advice would you give to people about how important it is to build a team and like the mindset of a builder? Not
so
just,
the key in my eyes is to be a great leader. You have to be a great leader. If you're not a great leader, you're not going to be able to run a company. You just can't.
What makes a great leader to you?
A great leader is, I'm glad you asked that. A great leader is caring about every person that works for you. Because if you don't care about them and you're being selfish, that's not a good leader. And that's a recipe for failure. You cannot just be worried about yourself. Greed is evil, right? It's good to care about yourself and it's good to worry about your own finances. Of course you have to. It's natural. But to not want to pay people well because you want to keep all of the profits to yourself, that's dangerous. That's not good leadership. Success for me has been, number one, caring about all the people that work for me, caring about them making money and their quality of life. I've always had a vision since I started my first company, like the movie Boiler Room or Wolf of Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to drive up to the parking lot of my business and see a bunch of Ferraris or BMWs or Mercedes parked outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I want that to be all my staff. So that's my vision, and that's what I work hard towards.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't reached that goal. Unfortunately, I'm the only one pulling up in a Ferrari right now, but my employees have some pretty nice cars out there.
Mm-hmm. What kind of Ferrari you got right now?
I have an F8 Spider, 2021 F8 Spider.
Nice. Oh, yeah, charcoal gray one. I love that.
Yeah.
Mind sharing the ballpark of how much that runs for?
That
private?
car was about $570,000.
What would the young Mike who was hustling in the streets back in the day, dreaming of this type of stuff, say about the fact that you got a Ferrari, it's over $500,000? Like, if you could look back at that young guy, what would he be thinking?
Well, first of all, young Mike would congratulate old Mike. Young Mike would say, so when I bought that Ferrari jacket or those Ferrari shoes, like, you were already envisioning your future, you know? And old Mike would tell young Mike, just try to be wise with the things that you do. Try to worry about everybody else. Make sure everybody's taken care of, and everybody will take care of you.
Mm-hmm.
That's been my whole model this whole time. Like, I know if I have 10 people on my team and I'm worried about their quality of life and them making good money, naturally, I'm going to make a lot of money myself. Mm-hmm. Because I'm so worried about giving to them. But you have to trust that process. Mm-hmm. You have to trust your heart and your instincts, and you have to trust that.
All right. Now, also, I know that you built your business with your wife. Now, that's something that a lot of people on social media, they talk about, like, I don't recommend it. Some people hate it. Some people love it. You know, the divorce rate, they even say, goes up with entrepreneurs or couples that are in business together. And I'm curious, from your perspective, what advice do you have for people about getting into business with their significant other, the pros, the cons, at least from your perspective?
It gets rough sometimes. Mm-hmm. It's hard to shut it off. So we'll be at the dinner table, or we'll literally be watching TV in bed, and an idea comes up and I'm trying to rest, but it's hard to shut it off when your wife is your business partner or running companies with you. It's difficult. It's not sunshines and rainbows. It's not. But it also has its blessings, because when we're successful at something, let's just say she's really involved in our real estate company. That's really her forte. Mm-hmm. If we rip a $70,000 spread on a flip that we just did, it feels good to celebrate, with your wife. Like, we accomplished that together. Up until a few years ago, she was a stay-home mom. She was going to school, just kind of, keeping an eye on the house, making sure the kids are all taken care of. And I felt like she kind of got bored, mm-hmm. and God had more in store for her. So when she started helping me with my real estate company a couple of years ago when I launched, I started noticing that she started helping me with my other businesses too, with collections, with skip tracing when I was launching that. And she really helped my collection agency, because before that, for 7-8 years, she was not involved at all. I was running the companies by myself. And she really put a woman's touch on it. When she stepped in, I started remodeling the offices. We started having beautiful Christmas parties. The morale started going up. She really put a woman's touch on the business. Mm-hmm. That really helped us out. I have a really good relationship with, like, my female employees, mm-hmm. that I've never had before, because it was a little uncomfortable. But with my wife there, it kind of relaxes the environment.
It koshers it up.
Exactly. Yeah. So, like, now I have, a good relationship with even some of my female employees, because they know there's nothing uncomfortable, because my wife's here, and my wife has a good relationship with all the employees. It's beautiful, mm-hmm. but it's not easy, because it's hard to shut things down. And sometimes, we do talk to each other a little interesting when we disagree on certain things of the business, mm-hmm. but it always works itself out for the best.
Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for people who are thinking about it, or maybe actively working on it, for couples out there who want to work together and get better at that?
I would say if you already have a great relationship, it'll work out. Mm-hmm. It's a plus. But if you have a bad relationship at home and you're looking to start a business, my personal opinion is just going to get worse. My wife and I have always had a beautiful relationship. Like every couple has disagreements,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't fight.
Mm-hmm.
We don't argue. We just disagree occasionally,
Mm-hmm.
very rarely.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, we have a great relationship. So naturally, if you have a good relationship at home, you're going to have a good relationship in the office.
What are some keys to effective communication in relationships? Obviously, you and your wife built a multi-million-dollar business. Communication is important, both intimately, but also professionally. What advice do you have on that?
Hear them out.
Mm-hmm.
Hear out their ideas. Be open-minded with their ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be afraid to trust their ideas and give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I found myself doing. I used to be stubborn before. I find myself being a lot more open-minded now. And it kind of sucks to say this, but I've noticed this too. Women have a different intelligence level than men.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying they're smarter. I'm not saying they're dumber. What I'm saying is that it's a different type of intelligence. My wife is really good at reading people. She has good hunches.
Mm-hmm.
So I find myself trusting her more and more when she has those inputs
Mm-hmm.
than when I was alone.
Yeah, versus just yourself or your own thoughts or your own this. That makes total
Two
sense.
minds are better than one.
Yeah, yeah.
Why not a woman's intuition
Mm-hmm.
and the woman that you love? Why not trust her judgment?
Mm-hmm. No, I love that.
It works at home.
Yeah.
It might work at the office.
I love that. It's smart. Now, what about in terms of managing 100 employees, hiring, firing? What are some things you've learned, some strategies you've learned in terms of like superstar players? I know Alex Hormozy talks about the fact that superstar, if people aren't usually like in great momentum or in great progress early on, they usually don't turn into superstars down the road. So, considering you've hired so many people in the sales profession where they, in a business where they have to perform, what advice do you have for people on finding and training and grooming performers versus knowing when to let people go?
What we do now that's been working for my business very, very well lately is we started implementing, everybody uses a DISC test, an assessment test in their personality. And we look for people in sales for high I and high D, interactiveness and decisiveness, low stability and low cautiousness. I'll explain why. Interactiveness is how we communicate. I've seen my own assessment test and I'm very high I, high D. I'm a good salesperson. My brother is super high I, super high D, almost 100%. He's a rock star closer in real estate. I notice my closers are the same. Everyone is high I, high D. So if you're good at making decisions quickly and you're good at interacting with other people, you're a closer. Now, you also have to have low S and low C, low stability, low caution. Caution, you can tend to overthink it. If you're very, very cautious, you're going to overthink everything. You're never going to get anything done if you overthink it. Stability is complacency. So if you like stability, like I'm very low on stability. That's why I'm not very complacent. I can never have enough. So if you're low stability, okay, you're low complacency. If you're high stability, you make $100 a week, I'm cool with that. I don't need those people here. I need people that are hungry, that want more, like me.
Top performers, yeah.
That's been a game changer for me, giving people assessments. And then the hiring process, interviewing them, making sure that their assessment does match the person that you're about to hire. And then lastly, giving them the proper training, having the proper systems in place to provide the training, coaching them, developing them, and keeping them motivated. If you can do all that, you just discovered gold.
Dude, I love that. Now, in terms of your business, like going from zero to building it now, you said revenues are over $1 million a month, projected at almost $20 million year to date. I'm curious from your perspective, what are some things next on the horizon for you as a CEO in the trenches? Like, what are things you're working on to grow and scale? Because a lot of people could be watching this or listening to this and go, holy shit, I can't even fathom those numbers. Whereas for you, it's just a byproduct of the momentum of your work. Like you're in the trenches working on stuff. A lot of people might look at you and think, oh, Mike has it all figured out. But if there's anything I've learned interviewing CEOs, they all go, I don't know anything. I'm barely figuring out the last level, trying to get to the next level. So what are things you're actively working on that you could be kind of like transparent and vulnerable with people out there who might think you have it all together, but you might not? Like, what are those areas that you're still actively working on now to grow?
I love that question. setting goals, hitting the goals, and staying consistent. So in collections, which is my main company, my baby, the biggest producer, I need to be consistently at 1.5 million. I've been there. I've been consistent at 1.5.
Mm-hmm.
The last few months, it's dipped a little bit because we're in a recession. As of November 2022, I need to declare to the world we are in a recession.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay for it to dip a little bit. I have to be understanding of that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not going to stop me from continuing my goal of 1.5 million consistently every single month.
Mm-hmm.
Once I meet that goal, I'm going to go back to my previous plan, which I was already on target to accomplish, was 1.7 million consistently, then 1.9, then 2. You have to set goals and levels, being realistic. So if I was just starting out, my goal would be, if I was starting out day one, which I have a branch that just started off a few months ago, my goal is 100 grand a month, then 200 grand. Hey, let's skip 100 grand today and let's go shoot for 400. Setting those goals, those targets, and hitting them, right? With real estate, I'm right now, everybody knows real estate's in the toilet. I did 140,000 last month, right? Some people might say that's good.
And real estate investment.
And real estate investing,
wholesaling,
flipping houses. Some people might say that's awesome. You did 140,000 last month. Wow, good for you. Some people might say that's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
That's pathetic, right? I just keep an open mind and I don't worry about anybody else but my own goals.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal, even during the recession, is to be at 200 to 300 consistently every single month. To me, the word consistency means success.
Mm-hmm.
You're not successful if you're not consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Show me one person that's successful that's not consistent.
Mm-hmm.
They don't exist.
Yeah, it's not about doing 100 grand or whatever 1 month. It's about building systems every month, whatever it is, whether it's money or the other thing. Yeah.
I think like that when I start exercising, when I start falling off of exercising, that's a good way to think of it. That's what I do. I think of it like that. Today, I'm going to the gym for an hour. I'm not going based off of how hard I'm going to work out. Today is about consistency. It's not about how hard I'm working out
intensity,
today.
Yeah.
And it's not about the intensity today. It's more about the consistency, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I look at business the same way. It's about consistency. Set a realistic goal that you feel that you're confident that you can hit, and hit it, and do it over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Skip tracing. My skip tracing company, I'm averaging about 80,000 a month right now.
Mm-hmm.
I've had $120,000, $140,000 months. I've had $70,000 months. Right now, my average is probably closer to 90. I haven't seen it in the last few months, but it's closer to 90. My goal is to do 100,000 consistently. Then I can set the bar to 150, then to 200. So those are like short-term goals. So I need to get back to 1.5 consistently in collections. I need to do 250,000 consistently in real estate. I need to do 120,000 consistently in skip tracing. Those are my short-term goals. My long-term goals are I need to be doing 2.5 million of revenue between all my companies every single month, right? Personally, I need to have a net worth of $10 million by February, March, whatever, right? So you have short-term goals and long-term goals.
Mm-hmm.
Hit those goals, make them realistic, hit them, and stay consistent with them. Then you worry about the next ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's been a key factor.
So how do you separate, or what advice do you have for people who set goals that are like lofty versus realistic? In your opinion, keep it realistic, build momentum, and then earn the right to dream bigger, kind of?
I'm a big fan of Brad Lee. Mm-hmm. I read his book. Brad Lee pointed out something that I'm already doing, but I wasn't aware of it. Short-term goals, smaller goals, count your wins, but your small wins, right? Count your base hits. Then the home runs will come. But right now, just get on base. So I would say that if you're getting into real estate and you want to do your first deal and you're going to flip your first house, okay? Just worry about getting through that one, profiting, maybe set a goal of 20 grand profit and get it done. Then do it again. Then instead of doing it on a monthly basis, maybe not try to do 2 a month, 3 a month, 4 a month. Before you know it, you're flipping 10 houses a month, right? So just try to get on base.
Yeah, and then that'll build momentum. No, I love that. Now, what about, as we look back and kind of wrap up, is like, what advice would you have for the young Mike who was looking for answers? you know, because I know you grew up in a rough situation, right? I mean, you saw, like, what are some of the things you actually saw growing up, if you could share? Like, I'm sure it was not easy stuff, right?
Man, I've seen drive-bys. Um, Thankfully, I've never witnessed myself anybody getting killed in front of me, but I've seen a lot of fights. I mean, I've been shot at. I've been in cars. You know, I don't want to incriminate myself, but I've been in cars doing, doing shootings that we should not have been involved in.
Yeah.
Um, I've seen crazy drug abuse. I mean, I've seen a lot of violence. Um, the list goes on. The list goes on. I mean, it's. I would say just try to keep your nose as clean as possible. You know, like don't get caught up. To me, even smoking weed is bad. I know it's legal in California. It's recreational. So is alcohol. You know, I drink on the weekends. During the week, I really don't mess with alcohol. But on the weekends, I'll have an old fashioned and a cigar. You know, I'll have a couple beers at the restaurants, but don't overdo it. Like even I read in Men's Health, if you're gonna drink, try to limit it to 3 drinks max in one seating, and try not to exceed 6 drinks a week. Anything after that, you can consider yourself an alcoholic, right? Something like that. But smoking weed, stay away from it. I know it's on every corner here. Stay away from it. You know, stronger drugs, definitely stay away from those. Don't even think about those.
What are your thoughts on weed and how it affects performance?
So I know for a fact, because I've seen CEOs that smoke weed, they forget everything, right? They forget to pay their internet, and then they come to the office and they don't know why they can't work. Well, you forgot to pay the internet last week. You know, it makes you sluggish. It's like alcohol. That's why I don't drink during the week. I need to be sharp, right? If I'm gonna drink on a Friday night, it's because I don't have work Saturday. You know, if it's an emergency, if I only have a few drinks, I'm still fine. But weed is easy to get addicted. So you start smoking, then the next thing you know, oh, I'm only doing it at night to go to sleep. Next thing you know, I only do it in the afternoon and at night. Next thing you know, I'm doing it in the morning when I wake up for breakfast. It's a vicious cycle, and it'll consume you. I know. I used to smoke a lot of weed in my teens. I mean, I did meth for heaven's sakes, right? So I know the power of addiction. I know what it can do to you. So just keep your nose clean and focus on getting the money. Find a way to make money, stack some money, invest some money, believe in yourself, and you'll get rich.
What do you think stops most people?
Their limited mindset, the lack of belief that they have in themselves. They don't believe that they can actually accomplish an idea that they have. Ideas, I believe, are sent by God. When you get an idea, a good idea, like not a negative idea, right? But a good idea. I'm not talking about an idea about using drugs or porn or anything like that. I'm talking about an idea. You get an idea of how to make money, that's God sent. You have to be conscious of that. God sent you that idea, okay? He sent it for a reason. If you fail, you might fail. But that doesn't mean that idea is not sent by God. Apply it.
Test it.
Test it. See if it works. Most importantly, this is what I believe. I believe that it will fail if you don't believe that idea was sent by God. If you believe that idea was sent by God and it was there for a reason, God put it there for a reason, and you believe that and you're confident and you have faith that it's going to work, it's going to work. But the minute you start doubting, that's when God says, you know, let me take that idea back. Maybe it wasn't for you. That's what I believe.
The God-given business plan.
Yes.
I love that, my man. Well, any final words of wisdom before we wrap up here? We always play a quick word game called First Things First, where basically I rifle off a quick word or phrase, and then you tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind. So it's a little relation game that we end every podcast with. But last question I have for you before we get into it is for somebody out there watching and seeing this interview and going, holy shit, that's crazy how Mike turned his life around, how he's growing and what he's creating. And, you know, maybe they have advice out there. I know you mentor a lot of people and you're part of a lot of masterminds and you're launching a new program and you got allies in what you do. By the way, shout out to Amir and Ahmed and Art as they're part of your group and they're mutual friends of ours. But like, what advice would you have for people looking at your story and going, shit, I want to do that with my life. I want to do something epic with my life. Whether it's a man, a woman, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, at any age. If you could look into the camera and give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
So it sounds like a cliche, but it's 100% true. Okay, invest in yourself, educate yourself, find a real good coach or mentor if you need them, hire them, absorb everything, get these God-given ideas and apply them. And don't look back. Don't question it. Don't doubt yourself. Just start running. Hit the ground and start running.
I love that. That's powerful. All right. So, you ready to play the game?
I'm ready.
All right. First word, money.
Get it.
Second one, phrase would be Ferrari or Lamborghini. I know you've had both. Which one do you like better? Why?
Ferrari. Classier. Faster.
Let's see. Your biggest obstacle you had to overcome?
Myself. Doubt.
The habit or the discipline that above all led to you becoming a millionaire?
That's a tough one. But it comes back to the same thing. Believing in myself and believing in my ideas. And not doubting it and just running with it.
The influence of working out in your business, like fitness.
Very huge stress reliever. And it sets the tone for positivity. And it just puts you in a good mood.
The biggest challenge you've had to overcome in business recently. How'd you get over it?
Losing staff to a competitor. I had to stay positive, and I had to trust in my own abilities, and I just had to be the great leader that I believe I am.
What it takes to be a great salesperson?
Confidence, and always sharpen your tools. Always polish yourself. Always get better. Keep learning from other great salespeople, and it's okay to copy them. Just try to do it in your own way.
The power of building your personal brand.
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't even know why I've went so hard, and I know that I've already made a lot of money with my brand, but I feel like I'm just getting started. I don't know why God has me on this mission to brand myself so hard, but I know that it's a God-given plan, so I'm going to keep running with it.
And how important do you feel like video branding is to the future of businesses and people worldwide? You know, I know it's in our business, and also we've worked together on this stuff, helping you with some video content. But for you, what is it that you see the future going to, the market's going to, with content creation?
So two things.
Yeah.
Number one, that's our modern day business card. So it's important for people to identify who you are and what you do. And number two, it's credibility. So if people trust you on social media, then they're going to trust you to do business with you. So it's a tool to make money and to expand your network. And your network is your net worth, as they say.
Yeah, I get eyeballs. No, I totally agree. All right, and then I would say what you hope people who hear your story take away from it.
Inspiration. I often get messages on Instagram, even on TikTok. It's like, bro, you inspired me. That's exactly what I'm shooting for. I want to inspire people. I hope to inspire people with my content. I want people to know that even if you abuse drugs, if you're in the gutter right now, no matter what, you can pull yourself out and you can be successful. You can live the life that you want to live. You can travel. You can eat the best food that there is. You can enjoy an expensive watch and an expensive car. You can do it.
And last but not least, when it's all done, said and done, and you're nothing but a pile of dust, dead and gone, and it's all past, you get to the gates of heaven, what would you think God would say to you about your life? What do you hope it would be?
I think God would say, you put up a good fight. Come on in.
I love it, Mike. Thanks, you so much for coming on the show.
Appreciate you.
As always, guys, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what questions you have. Who knows? We may have Mike on the show for round 2. And also, you can be sure to check him out and follow him at all the links in the description down below. So whether you want to learn how to elevate your life, your business, your brand, whatever it is, you can check those links out in the description below. Till then, make sure to follow Mike Martinez, and we'll see you guys in the next inspiring video.